everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Good Grief, Life After Loss. Thank you so much for being here. If you're listening on Thursday, happy Thursday. I hope you are all having a great day and ready to just dive into today's episode. So, as we know, this month I am reflecting on 10 years without my brother Sam. And last week I shared 10 lessons that grief has taught me. And this week's episode is harder because it's about what hasn't healed. 10 years later, there are still parts of grief that just hurt so deeply. And I want to talk about them honestly because I know I'm not alone in this. And honestly, the past few weeks have been hard. I don't know. I feel like even doing this podcast, I've still felt very out of touch with my grief and felt like I was almost more just telling a story, even though it was about me and my loss, and not really taking the time to acknowledge my feelings and sit in them. And I think because we are coming up on 10 years without Sam, it's just bringing up a lot of really hard feelings, and doing this podcast is causing me to have to reflect on those feelings a lot more. So, yeah, it's been a rough time. I think it will continue to be a rough time. Oh my God. Well, guess we all better get used to hearing me sob on every episode for the next month. So buckle in. Let's get into things that even a decade later still really freaking hurt. Okay, I've wiped my tears. I've had a sip of water. Let's dive into it. So there are some things that 10 years later really don't affect me. Of course, they make me a little sad, but they don't really give me pause. They don't really cause me to sit in that sadness. Maybe they just kind of pass through my mind briefly and move on. But there are a few things that even 10 years later still really affect me and really upset me. And honestly, some of them I'm surprised by. Some of these things I thought I'll get over eventually, and now I find myself wondering, will I forever be sad when this one thing happens? So the first thing is seeing ski edits. I often find myself scrolling through Instagram and seeing someone post a ski edit, and it just stops me in my tracks because I truly, truly believe that Sam was on the path to be an Olympic champion, an X Games champion, whatever it was. He was an incredible skier, and I know he was only going to continue getting better. And I don't know if it's this sense of jealousy or what it is, but watching his friends doing so well in the skiing world, it doesn't make me jealous. I think it just breaks my heart a little to wonder, like, who would Sam be now? What could he have accomplished by now? And so when I log on Instagram and I see one of his friends posting a ski edit, it both makes me happy and also so sad because it just leaves me with questions. I don't know. The second thing, which I think really isn't that unexpected, but it's that music really sneaks up on me. As we all know by now, the song Firework by Katy Perry is a big one. It played at Sam's memorial, and it continues to come up in random places. And I think what's the hardest about that is that no one else in the room understands its weight. And I feel like I have to smile and act like it's fine, even though inside it just really hurts. And it really sucks that it's such like a happy, fun song that people love. Like, ugh. Even the other day, I was watching the movie The Interview, where they interview Kim Jong-un, and if you've seen this movie, it's a hilarious movie, but there's one scene where they're riding around in his tank, and Katy Perry Firework is playing, and it's just like the most hilarious movie scene ever. And yet, even in that moment, I can't help but be like, this is so sad that this song only reminds me of the worst time in my life, even though it's playing over a hilarious scene. I don't know. There's not many songs that do that to me anymore, but Katy Perry Firework will just forever be ruined for me, unfortunately. Something else that I also thought would have gotten easier with time is siblings everywhere. Seeing siblings just has yet to get easier. And when Sam was younger, he was like that typical teenage brother who was moody and annoyed with me, the younger sister, and honestly a jerk to me at times. But we eventually moved past that phase, and in those last few years, our bond grew so strong. Like, we truly were an incredible sibling duo together, and we loved each other, and we actually enjoyed hanging out with each other, and we had fun together. And now, seeing siblings laughing together is just a constant reminder of what I have lost and what I will never get. And it stings because I don't want my sadness to take away from other people's happiness, but I just can't help but sit in those moments and feel jealous, honestly, and wish that I had what they have. And even recently, I was sitting at dinner with a bunch of people, and everyone was talking about their siblings and telling stories, and I just felt this weird mix of like uncomfortable and like I really hope no one asks me, and just sad that I can't share stories. And yes, I have stories with Sam. Of course, I have so many stories, but I will never get to make a new story. And that sucks. All of this sucks. Everything I'm going to talk about today sucks. That is just grief. Grief friggin' sucks. Anyways, next. The fourth thing is when people complain about siblings, because this one is strange. It doesn't exactly make me sad, but it always lands somewhere. And when I hear people complain about their siblings, I just can't help but think of Sam and how I would literally give anything to have him here to annoy me and inconvenience me and tease me and whatever it is. Like, I know no one ever has ill intent complaining about their siblings, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And 10 years later, unfortunately, that's one that still stings. Something that I know will never get easier, and I think as the years go on, it might even get harder, is thinking about all of the milestones that Sam will miss. My wedding is the biggest, most painful one. But also the thought of never getting to see Sam as the cool, fun uncle that I know he would have been to my kids. Like, he would have been the best uncle. And the thought that I won't get to watch him become a dad, to meet the love of his life, to marry that person. Like, these future moments are some of the hardest to accept because I know how much joy he would have brought to them. And I think there will always be a little bit of pain and sadness, even in the happiest moments of my life, because Sam won't be there. And of course, there's the typical birthdays and anniversaries that maybe I would have thought every year would have gotten easier, yet every year his birthday, his anniversary is still brutal. And I can't help but wonder, who would Sam have been now? What would he be like at 26? And of course, nothing good could come from these thought loops, but it doesn't mean I'm not thinking them constantly. And again, our Live Like Sam gala is always so bittersweet because it is so beautiful to see what Sam's legacy has created. It's literally insane what his legacy has done, but of course, it's also so heavy. And I think this year, it's our 10-year anniversary of losing Sam, and I think this gala is just going to be especially hard to look at all of the incredible things he has done that have happened as a result of him not being here. This kind of goes back to earlier when I was talking about siblings, but I think something that has not gotten easier in the 10 years since losing Sam is the reality that I am an only child. And this is one of the most soul-crushing parts of it all, because I will always be Sam's sister, Sam will always be my brother, but living as an only child now just feels like a piece of me is missing, and it's confusing, it's painful, it's something I obviously would have never chosen, and I don't know, like, what do you do when you lose such a big piece of your identity? And it almost changed my identity having him be gone, because now I'm not just a younger sister, I'm a sister whose brother is dead. Like, it's changed the whole narrative of our sibling relationship. Ugh, guys. This podcast is feeling just like a special form of self-torture, honestly. Like, I question why I put myself through this, but I'm hoping someone is listening and finding this relatable and not just super depressing, because that's how I'm feeling about it right now. All right, we have 3 more things left on my list. Number 8, the weight of Sam's legacy it only gets heavier, honestly. I don't always feel pressure to keep Sam's memory alive, but sometimes I feel like there are these expectations. Like if I don't carry it forward, I would be letting him down. And I worry about what is going to happen in the future. I worry that his memory is going to lose significance. I worry that he'll be forgotten, and I don't think that'll ever happen, but like, if my dad eventually he has to retire from running Live Like Sam, like then what? I think no one ever will care about this as deeply as we do as his family. But my dad especially has done so much to keep Sam's legacy alive, and I worry that all that work could be forgotten one day, and that Sam could be forgotten one day. And I hope that's not true, and I think his legacy is so strong and so ingrained in our Park City community right now that could never happen, but it's something that like weight and that fear gets heavier each year as we get further away from the years when Sam was alive and when people knew him. Something that also really just hasn't gotten easier with time is that weird feeling of guilt. Because when I reflect on the past 10 years, for me, they have been a pretty great past 10 years. Like, I've really loved the life that I've had. I love the connections I've made, the experiences I've had, the accomplishments I've had. Like, I'm very happy with where my life is now, but that doesn't come without guilt. That one, a lot of the things I have are because of Sam's death, which I've talked about in other episodes, but I feel that guilt of like, I feel like I wouldn't have had a college essay to write without Sam's death. I wouldn't have given that TED Talk. I wouldn't have started this podcast. We wouldn't have the Live Like Sam Foundation. And like, of course I would give that all away, but I can't. I don't know. It feels weird to be so happy with where my life is now, but to know also that it could have been so different had Sam still been here. And the last thing I want to talk about is the myth that time heals, because it is just that, a myth. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that time makes grief go away. Time makes grief better. And people assume that because I talk about Sam so openly, I must be okay. And honestly, that's a fair assumption. I think I kind of make that assumption about my dad because he talks about it even more openly than me with running our nonprofit. But the truth is, I still have extremely hard days. I think anyone who has lost someone can agree with that. And even 10 years later, I sometimes feel like I'm not allowed to, or like I shouldn't talk about being sad to others, or I should just like keep these feelings to myself or brush them away. But the truth is, like, that ache is permanent. I will always miss him. But I also feel like I picture 80-year-old Skylar, and I'm like, am I allowed to still be upset about this then after I've lived this full life and have kids of my own and grandkids of my own? Like, am I still at 80 years old going to be allowed to be sad and to miss Sam? And of course the answer is yes. But all to say, it is a myth. I don't think time heals. It just takes you further away from the impact of pain, but the pain still lingers. So, 10 years later, what still hurts the most, you may ask? All of it, a lot of it. It's everyday reminders, it's big milestones, it's little things scrolling through Instagram, seeing siblings out in the wild. It's the identity of trying to figure out who I am, and it's fear about the future and what Sam's legacy will be. But I'm also learning that it is okay if some parts of grief never heal. It doesn't mean I'm broken. It just means Sam mattered and I loved him, and that will always be the case. So I think with love that deep, grief will never just go away. Because as long as I'm remembering Sam, those sad, painful parts are going to be there as well. So if you related to this episode, let me know in the comments. Let me know what are things that however many years later for you after you've lost your person, you didn't think were going to have such a big impact, yet they still do. Because as I learned today, there are many things. And like I said, I think that's okay. That just means we're human, so it's okay. But next week, tune back in for another episode where I dive even deeper into the theme of 10 years without Sam. Until then, I want to leave you with this. If you are grieving and still hurting years later, that is okay. You are not doing it wrong. If anything, you're probably doing it right. some pain just means love. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we will talk next week. Bye.